Hey, welcome everyone to the Robert Timmons Show. Today, our guest is Dee Woolridge, who is a keynote speaker on mindset, communication, and resilience. She is also a success coach and best-selling author. Dee is a retired naval officer with over 30 years of service and served on the communication integration team of Afghanistan and Iraq and led sailors at the command level. Now, she is the founder of the Heart-Centered Institute. Welcome to the show, Dee.
Thank you for having me, Robert. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today.
And where are we calling in from today, Dee?
I'm calling in from Military Town, USA, and that is San Antonio, Texas.
Awesome. I'm so excited to actually have you here today and find out more about a woman leading sailors. I think that's fabulous. Something that someone may not even think about, but that's the way today is. You know, we have more people like yourself up there in the command levels doing such amazing work. And you have 30 years of background in that and would love to learn a little bit more about that area.
Sure. Thankfully, the military has leaned in and led the way of having women and promoting women to the command levels, even to the flag officer level, where you have your generals and your admirals. So I got to be part of that journey. I tell people I took the scenic route. My journey, I didn't even set out to join the military. You know how some people they join the military because it's legacy, it's in their family. So they graduate from West Point or the Naval Academy, and then they have their sights set on taking command. And command means that you are in charge of a unit or squadron or ship at the executive or commanding officer level. You are their number one person. And that is a route that some people take. They know exactly what they want to do out of high school. Well, that wasn't my reality. You know, I went right to college right out of high school, and at the end, I ran out of money. So I joined the military to finish that last semester. I was like, I just need money to finish this last semester. So I had no intention of doing more than 4 years. I just wanted GI Bill to finish, tuition assistance, and then I'm going to go on and finish my life as whatever that was going to be. I was going to major in marketing and sell people things and how to do that. But I joined the military, and things just started to evolve from there. So this is how the scenic route went. Remember I told you about that direct path that some people have to the command? Mine started out as an enlisted sailor, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do because, like I said, my sights were set on just school. I'm here for
Right.
school. I ended up being an aviation electrician,
Oh,
and I
interesting.
worked on helicopters.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I have this electrical background too. So you could talk to me about, current and electricity and things like that. I can have a conversation with you about that. But it wasn't my passion, and I wasn't great at it. And every chance I got, I would try to write something. So there was an opportunity that came up. There was a contest that said, you can write this article about your command, your squadron, and you can get published. So I joined it. I joined that competition, and I won. And I won this award called the Golden Quill.
Oh,
And
wow.
that led to me becoming, shifting my job from aviation electrician to a Navy journalist. So I was a Navy journalist for quite a while, learning how to speak, to write, to shoot, meaning, to work behind a camera. And after a while, I finally did finish not just my bachelor's degree, but a master's degree, applied for a commissioning, and went into the public affairs went in as a public affairs officer, which was still in that uh, community where I was writing and shooting. I had published many things by that time. And so the scenic route continued. And, you know, you try different jobs and you do different things and you're learning as you go. And it eventually, I ended up being a consultant on sets in Hollywood, consulting for movies like Transformers. And that was where I was at the command level. So that means that I was the commanding officer of that unit. And along the way, you know, I am not just being mentored by people that were above me. I was responsible for mentoring other sailors and leading them and helping them. So it was a really great, beautiful role reversal of me coming up as I'm just here for the money to now I have pride in my uniform. I have pride in what I do, how I serve my country, and instilling that same mindset in other sailors who came in that said, I'm just here for the money. I'm like, that's what you think you're here for. But you're going to learn leadership skills. You're going to learn, you're going to grow, and you're going to have this different mindset. And just watching them grow as I did was very rewarding.
Oh, I bet that was. And that, wow, what a story. I had no idea. I read about you, read your background, but I didn't read anything like that. That was very, very interesting. And how you got into journalism and into affairs up to command level. That, honestly, I think that's the best, way, because you pulled yourself out from the bottom right through your passion and made it up there. Now, thank God you won that award. Is that something that was really the stepping stone that really, hey, this person's got some stuff here. We need to relocate you, or did you even know the journalism part was in there?
Well, I was like in high school, I was on a school newspaper, so I knew how to write. And I knew I didn't want to continue as an electrician. You know, it just wasn't my passion at that time. I'm in the Navy. I am getting the benefits like the tuition assistance to go to school. And, you know, I wasn't ready to leave the military. So when I entered that contest and won, I'm like, so I am a good writer. I can do this, because it was the whole base. People from the whole base, and this was in San Diego at NAS Naval Air Station Coronado. It's a pretty big base.
Okay.
So everybody that submitted writings, I won. I'm like, okay, this is either God or my ego saying you could do this. So I'm going to say it was God just leading me to where I needed to be, because I know that being an electrician was honorable, and it was I had some really good times, but I had some times that I'm saying I can't see myself doing this for 20 years. I think if I had stayed an electrician, I wouldn't have stayed in.
Right. No, I definitely understand that. And, I love helicopters, I have to say. So for you to say that you worked on them was quite cool to hear. I've only flown in a couple, maybe 3 myself. I was with work and that, but I just find them fascinating. I was even going to enlist to become a pilot, but they said, well, you got to go back to school and this and that. I'm like, oh, I've already had like 10 years in a career, and I'm like, I don't want to go back to school then. And then you don't even have that possibility. It was like, okay, where are they going to put you from there? So I was like, all right, I'm just not going to go here.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. You have to be an officer. You have to have a degree and then to be selected to go to school. And then you have to still go through all of that schooling and then pass it. So it's very rigorous, because, the military is looking for the best.
Right. Absolutely. And rightfully so. You know, if you're gonna fly some $1 million equipment, you definitely want to be able to know what you're doing. And helicopters are a
Sure.
little different than, you know, anything else. They're very
Yeah.
unique.
Then the fixed wings. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you're retired, you're a keynote speaker on mindset. You know, can you please share, you know, some views on mindset and how it plays into your talk and into your life?
I say that mindset is one of my superpowers. And so mindset, communication, and resilience are my superpowers that developed in childhood. I'm number 9 of 13
Wow.
siblings. So those three things I learned pretty fast. It is, you know, how to survive in my tribe. So starting there as a child on how to live well and survive in that tribe. And then I had mentors along the way. You know, I remember 6th grade and 7th grade, I had some really good teachers that saw something in me that would, you know, that pulled me aside and said, wanted to teach me this thing extra. And my Uncle Jimmy that took me and my brother to rallies on for peace, and took me around and exposed me to things outside of my neighborhood. Joined in the Navy, Petty Officer First Class Armor, who, as an electrician, he fixed my attitude. Because I was like, it's cold out here. You know, we'd be there at 3 a.m. waiting for a helicopter to come in to get refueled, and we have to check it out when it got there. I'm just like, this is stupid. I don't want to be there. He's like, you know, you're here. Let's make the best of it. And
Right.
he taught me. That was my wake up call. He was like, you got to do the job, so you can be miserable doing it, or you can find the good in it. So we would sing songs and dance on the flight line. And then there was Lieutenant Larson, who, she affirmed everything she did. She would say, I'm going to swim 10 laps in 2 minutes. And then she would jump in the water, and then she would just go. And then she said, she would get out and say, I'm going to do 50 push-ups in 60 seconds. And then she would do it. So she affirmed everything. And I watched her do that. It was her mindset. Every time she said she was going to do something, she did it. Even if she fell short, she set it up that she was going to do it. Captain Britain, who taught me that every doesn't, you know, he was like, I remember being a young ensign. He was just like, everything doesn't have to be so hard. It's how you approach it. He says, you know, I know you're in the military, but these are people. They didn't have a uniform on yesterday, but when they join, they have a uniform. So you have to treat them as people first. So what's going on with them? So he taught me that. And my husband, Gunny Sergeant Woolridge, who he always encouraged me to do the one thing more. If I say we're going to, you know, I was like, I'm going to run 1.5 miles today. He says, well, why don't we make it 2 miles? And I'm like, oh, he was always pushing for that little bit more.
Right.
My daughter, Jasmine, who has autism and has been my greatest teacher. And one of the things that I would always say to her was, different doesn't mean less. And that was the biggest mindset lesson, was you can still do things even if you do them differently. It doesn't mean that you're less. It just means that it's different.
Right. Wow.
So all of these people just poured into me mindset in different ways. And that's how I got to be got to be my superpower, is where I am right now, teaching it,
They
how
became
I
your
was taught
team
it.
in a sense, right? Building you up
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
transforming you until you found
Yeah.
your legs
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. They were my Alfreds. Like Batman has Alfred that looked after him, that supported him, somebody that he can talk to and go to. So I think all of these people were my Alfred.
Wow.
If you're into Batman.
Well, I'm Hopefully a lot of people understand who Batman is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Been around for years, but no, that's incredible. And I love how you pulled in certain instances that you were emotionally connected to in your
Hmm.
story that brought out a little piece that built up this foundation of who you are today. I
Hmm.
think that's really incredible, and I appreciate you sharing that.
I think we all have it. If you look back at your life, we've all been influenced somewhere that has shaped us into a good human being. And that's what we're
Mm,
all striving. We always say that we're striving for success or happiness or peace. How about just being a good human being?
absolutely. Yeah, just kind of like Gary Vee, he's always out there spreading love, talking about,
Hmm.
passion. And, I'm on his text message, and it's, the days that he's talking to me, he's like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while." And this, I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I love you." I'm like,
Hey,
"Oh,
you got
Gary, you're
Gary
so
Vee
fun."
doing that. That's a big deal, Robert.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a CEO. Well, he's not doing it personally to me. I'm part of his list. He's sending it out
Yeah.
to everybody. But just those words,
Hmm.
and he knows how to
Hmm.
connect with someone, even if it's sent out to probably 50,000 people. But it does make one person feel good when you read something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what is the value of a morning routine on mindset in your eyes?
I think it's everything. Honestly, it is. In the military, we have these rigorous routines and drills where you would condition your mind and your body to behave in a certain way so that it became second nature. You didn't have to think about it, you just acted on it. It was purposeful for the role as a service member. But if you examine, I don't want to use the word but, I want to go also, when you examine the lives of successful entrepreneurs, leaders, moguls, and people like Gary Vee, they have morning routines. Tony Robbins calls it priming, a way to
Mm,
set up his day for success. And we all have some kind of routine, but I believe that the morning routine should be, I call it PCP. The P is for positive, then consistent, and then purposeful. So the first P, if you take it, you begin with gratitude, a positive vibes coming in, being inspired, motivated, seek positive information. Who are you listening to in the morning? You're getting your text messages, Robert, right? From Gary Vee, and he's inspiring you. So he's feeling you. You said he's always spreading love.
mhm.
That right there is that positive punch that you need in the morning. And then being consistent, doing it every day, so you become so consistent that you can predict your outcome will be positive, because that's what you're attracting. You're being poured into, um, this positive vibe being poured into you, so it just comes out of you. And then being purposeful, know what you're trying to achieve. A peaceful mindset, a fit body, becoming a charismatic leader, or like I said before, a great human being. So it is knowing your why. And that's my PCP for mindset, for morning mindset,
No, that's
is
great.
doing
And
that.
and it's true. The what I've learned a lot from reading books, from following amazing people that bring out this value like yourself, is there are patterns of a morning routine, because they say you set your morning, you set your day,
That's
right?
right.
And I have taken on meditation, which I'm sure my listeners know by now because I talk about it all the time. Because if I don't meditate in the morning now, I'm off. I really miss it. I miss it.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't I do it? What happened that
Yeah.
took me away from this beautiful, blissful moment of creating in my mind? Like, as an artist, I love creating, and learning that meditation is creating. It's
Hmm.
it's perfect. It's beautiful.
It is.
Anything that you do in there is yours, and no one can tell you, no one can judge. It's yours. And learning that it actually will manifest because you're putting yourself into a different vibration, you're a little higher. You have to be there before you get there, in a sense, right?
Yes, I love that. I love it, love it, love it. Yeah, having to be there before you get there. I did a short meditation right before I came on with you, just to get settled, to get rid of any butterflies. You know, I've been speaking for years, um, but I still get these butterflies because I
Mm.
want to do a good job. I want to make sure that I'm serving, and that the information just comes through. And meditating helps just focus your mind, because that's what you're doing in um, meditation and hypnosis. And it, as you know, Robert, I'm a hypnotherapist, so that extreme level of relaxation and focus, that's what hypnosis is. um, Meditation is just like that. So when you meditate, Robert, do you sit in silence, or are you doing guided meditations, or are you doing it with music? How do you meditate?
I do it different ways depending on how I feel in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel I got less time, I need to get
Mm-hmm.
up and do things, I do a guided one.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps me on track and keeps me, kind of like consistent in the thing. I do a 6 phase meditation where it goes from compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, which I find those three are huge. Then we go to your future, your present, how you're going to take that future and bring it into your day, and then blessing, asking the universe for to bring this into fruition of some manner, bring the tools, the tips, whatever I need to move this into form. But yeah,
I
and
love
if I
those.
feel I got more time, like sometimes I've taken an hour and a half in my meditation up to 2 hours. And
Yeah.
that's when I just put in I go on YouTube and I just find those manifestation kind of sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and I just deep dive as deep as I can. And then I'll start tapping in to things. And I believe I may be going to sleep and coming back, but I'm
Yeah.
coming back in that same sound. So I tap back into
Yeah.
where I am in 3 years from now. And
Yeah.
I keep pulling myself, I keep purposely taking myself and thinking about my future, because it's easy to get off. And if I start veering off into some luggage, I cut that off as soon as I
Mm-hmm.
can, stay focused in the present or the
Mm-hmm.
future. And I always, anytime I get any memories, I cut them off. I do not want anything from the past. I cut that off, and I'm focusing on the present and the future. So that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Excellent. I love it. Love it.
So now you are an author of 2 books, right? Unlimited, break free from beliefs that block success and happiness, and The Resilient You, how to bounce back and win the stress game. Can you give us a brief synopsis of these books and where people can get them?
Sure. I'm actually an author of 5 books,
Oh,
and
wow.
3 of them are on Amazon.
Okay.
So the first one, that you didn't mention, is probably my favorite one, and it is called Spirit Guide Connection
Oh, nice.
101. It's the book that I wrote when I was on active duty. And if you don't mind, I'll just tell you a little story about
Absolutely. Bring it on.
my journey when I was trying to figure out who I was, because I know who everybody thought I was because they were looking at me at my uniform. But I was always, not always, but I was, my journey into my spiritual self, I was waking up. And then I was finding that I wasn't really fitting into the military scheme anymore.
Mm.
And I was with a unit called at Central Command, and it was a command over Afghanistan, over the area of, was over all the things that were in war at that time in Yemen, um, Egypt, Afghanistan, Iraq, all of those places that were, war torn. So everything was really intense. Everyone in my unit was intense. So I was in a special operations unit, and it's that unit was, parts of us were being deployed here and there. So there were, in our unit, there were Navy SEALs, intel guys, um, logistic guys, all of these people, right? And then there was me, the public affairs officer. And I was the most chill person in that unit because I had already started meditating and talking to my spirit guides and doing all these things in secret. So I would, when other people were going out drinking and I don't know, whatever they were doing after work, I was writing this book on how to
Wow.
connect with your spirit guides because I had been teaching workshops on the side. It's like, what are you doing after work? Oh, I'm just going to do something. Oh, I'm going to go do this. Because every time I talked about it, people didn't get me. They just
Mm-hmm.
didn't get what I was saying. And I remember having a conversation with one of my unit members, and he said, he was telling me about his book and, all the places he was deployed in it and how it was all about war, and the art of war. So I wasn't showing interest in it. And I think he was a little agitated by it. And he was like, my book, my book. And I was just like, I said, I'm an author too. Then he goes, really? What kind of book did you write? And I said, well, I wrote a book about spirit guides. And he started laughing. And he goes, that has no place in war.
Mm.
And I said, so I knew that we were vibrating at different levels.
Right, right.
And I didn't judge him because that's where he was for the job that he needed to do on the planet at that time. And I said, well, my approach to war is more like Mother Teresa's and Martin Luther King's, where Mother Teresa said, I will march for peace, but not against war.
Yeah.
They're very different
Yeah.
feelings. The vibration's different. He went on to tell me that I shouldn't be an author, nor should I wear the uniform because we were in a time of war, and that's where did Martin Luther King get? He got dead.
Mm.
Basically, that's what he told me, and that it wasn't solving anything, and so instead of arguing with him, I just said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. And I just let it go. So I kind of hid this book for a little while. So when I separated from the military, that's when I started to promote it. So anyways, if anybody is interested in connecting with their spirit guides, it's basics on who spirit guides are, how they show up in your life, the different kinds. There's prayers in it. And then there's also 7 meditations to help you connect if you want to know your spirit guides and how to connect with them. So that's that first book. And I think that's the most near and dearest book to my heart because of how it was written. And it was one of those things that had to be produced because I was called to do it. Does that make sense?
Mm.
That like
Oh,
you're just like,
absolutely.
you're
I know
called to
I
write.
do feel that
Yeah.
because, when I was doing my first painting and I got passion to paint about sharks in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I was networking it, putting it out there to see if anybody else was interested, because it's similar to your story where I feel that when you start onto a new path, the people around you start alienating you or questioning
Yeah.
you, and you're on a new path when that happens. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people get depressed and start or second guessing themselves and pull themselves back into that world. But that's when you're actually moving somewhere more incredible, more of a
Yes.
discovery. And
Yeah.
that's where I was doing about sharks, and I got to the point where I felt in my heart, okay, I have to speak about this now. It pushed me to another level, and then I had to search out
Yes.
people that would help me with the speaking, and it became on more and more. But I don't want to keep going on that. But I think spirit guides is something definitely fascinating to me. My wife's all about it as well,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting. She does this meditation where she asks a question and then she asks for her certain sign to show up to answer that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her the other day, I said, what is that you do? And she explained to me, and I asked a question, right? in my own, by myself. I kind of asked a question. I said, now show me within 24 hours, I need this answer. If it's a yes or a no, I want to see. And I said, tiger. And I'm in Texas. There's no tigers in Texas, right?
Uh-huh.
So I say within 3 hours, 3 hours, I was going, my wife had left, came back. She had got some stuff for my son, and I was going over and I was checking out what she got my son. She got books for him, and was one of them had a tiger on the front cover. And I just blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God. I had to
There
run
you go.
upstairs and say to her, did you know you brought back my answer? And she's like, what do you mean? I said, the tiger. And she was like, it was incredible how it worked
Yeah.
out. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that plays in with the spiritual guy, but I found that
It
something very
does.
similar.
It does. You asked, and you asked for a sign, and you were given it. And when I started on this journey, for my belief, I used to say, I want a dime, because you could find pennies all the time, right? I was like, I want to see a dime.
Wow.
So, within an hour, I found a dime. So now every time I see a dime, I will look at my watch, and then it'll be 111 or 222 or 333. So I know that I'm surrounded by my guides, ascended masters, and it's time to manifest. So where is my mind? What am I thinking? So that's a good time. And I feel so good. I was like, it's a dime. Oh, I'm so excited about the dime. So now I start thinking good thoughts, and I go, first I just like, thank you for this dime. And then I just start thinking that, like you said, part of your six-part meditation, and one is asking. I don't think that's the word you use, but blessing. You said,
Blessing, right? Yes.
like, this is what I would like to bring or create into my life, and I'll do it. I'll hold the feeling of that joy for 60 seconds. While I'm in that minute. So that's what I do with. So yes, your sign with the tigers. Mine is a dime.
That's
The
cool.
dime for
And
those.
I want to talk about that last part where when you feel those emotions, it doesn't matter what it is, you can, like you say, you can tap into other goals, things that you're striving for, and take that energy and feel it.
That is how you create. That's the law of attraction. It is not the thought, it's the feeling that
Exactly.
goes with the thought. Because, and also I think you said, Robert, is you have to be it before it comes, and to be it, you have to feel it.
Absolutely.
To believe it, you have to feel it. So one of the exercises I give my clients is to set an alarm 3 times a day with an affirmation. When the alarm goes off, read the affirmation, but you got to feel it if you want to actually manifest what it is that the affirmation is saying. So if you say, I have a harmonious relationship, you have to really see in your mind you and that person walking hand in hand, hugging and eating dinner together, and all of that, just really feeling how it is for you to have a harmonious relationship, because that's belief and emotion go together. And when you
Absolutely. Yes.
believe it, the universe says yes and will give it to you. It has to. That's the law.
Takes into form.
Takes into form. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because you're already there. You're already allowing your body, your mind, your soul to feel you in that position already. So now it's just attracting it. So now
Mm-hmm.
you have to go through the reality of getting there, but it's almost like you're advancing it faster without thinking about, oh, okay, I need to go
Yeah.
here, I need to go there. It's actually drawing you to it. You're
It's drawing
attracting
you
it as
to
much
it.
as it's attracting you. I think
Yeah.
that's so fascinating.
So you're letting go of resistance, so you have
Mm,
this straight path to what you want, instead of bumping around just trying to get it. And that's where,
right.
and you know this, Robert, that's where meditation comes in, because when you're doing your meditations, or your I call them hypno meditations. I probably tend to go a little bit deeper, because this is my daily practice with my clients, is letting go of that resistance, that critical factor that wants to analyze everything.
Right.
Because in your meditation, if you have a tree, if you can put a tree in the middle of your living room, if you want to in your meditation, but logically, the critical factor says that can't be, that's not logical. So in your mind, you can go wherever you want to, and there's no resistance to what it is right now.
And resistance
What's
is
the
the big
resistance?
key.
Yeah.
I after learning a lot about this, I find that the body is like a resistor. And the less you can get that to being a resistor, the greater flow of energy can come in and through you.
Mm-hmm.
But as
Here's some electrical things. This is from my electrical background, as an electrician. There's a little component called a resistor.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
So what it does is steps down the current, because the current can be so strong coming in, you need something to slow it down. And so you put a resistor right there. And if you take that resistor out, the current will go straight through. So that's what we're doing in our lives when we're going into meditation, and when we're thinking these great thoughts, when we are talking about having these things before they happened. We've taken out that we've taken that resistor out of the circuitry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did a little bit of electronics engineering and that
There you go.
back before, and that's exactly what I took it as, because energy is a flow, and and when, like you say, it goes through the resistor, but in this case we're talking about lessening your resistor consistently, and meditation will help that to the point where you're almost pretty much resistantless. And you have no friction anymore, and you're allowing
Yeah.
that flow to come right through you. And the best part, so the listeners know, that flow carries information. So the higher the vibration you go to, the more information you're receiving. So when you put yourself in that position of, being, where you want to be, you're gathering that information of that resistance, of that vibration, sorry, and you're allowing that to come into your life and into play, which is probably what's
Absolutely.
guiding you there.
Some people don't know how to do that, which brings me to the second book that I wrote is called Unlimited: Breaking Free from Blocks to Success and Happiness. So in it this book was written for people that want things like financial stability, good physical health, emotional health, harmonious relationships, acceptance and inner peace. And they don't realize that they're the ones that's blocking that. They are the resistor, or they're bringing forth that resistance that sabotages. So this book actually has some case studies along with what to do about it. Now you know what's happening to you. Here are some tools that you can use to not do those things. And I think there's 7 tools in the book, because not everything works for everyone. So there's 7 tools in that book. And then The Resilient You is my latest book, because over the last 3 years, most people that contact me are contacting me because they have huge levels of anxiety, stress, and even depression. And I used to work with mostly women that were between 40 and 55. And now the people that are calling me are younger. They are between 22 and like 35, because they're experiencing so much anxiety. And I wrote this book to have people recognize what they're doing to themselves, how they're actually bringing that anxiety in. Many of the things that they're experiencing anxiety from is childhood stuff, but you still can relieve yourself of those things when you know what it is. And this book is about it. Again, it has exercises in it. I'm the hands-on girl. You can't just talk to me about it. It's like, hands-on learning. Okay, so
Mhm.
I always ask my clients, okay, so now you know what's happening. What do you want to do about it?
Right.
Let's get started. So here's some things that you can do about it. So along with this book, I have a free workshop that anybody can tap into that's called How to Build Resistance to Stress and Anxiety. It's the workbook has everything that I know about how to get out of anxiety and stress. I poured it into that workshop. There's the workbook that's probably one of the best things I've done, I think, Robert, is that workbook that you get with the free workshop, because it's self-paced and people can go through it themselves. And the feedback that I'm getting from the workshop is that I didn't know this was happening to me. Now I know what it is. That's great. And now you're giving me some tools to help me get out of that.
Wow.
So awareness is the first thing. And
Absolutely.
then
Hmm.
the steps to relieve yourself of.
Instead of leaving them
Yeah.
like, okay, now what? Right. Like a
Yeah.
lot of times, motivational speakers in a sense could motivate you and then they don't give you the tools to,
Yeah.
all
You
right,
got
let's
to have
work
some
on the rest.
tools. You got to
Absolutely.
have some tools. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want someone lost and confused still going, okay, now what do I do? I
So that
do.
was good. I'm motivated. I'm inspired. Now what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think people are changing in that because people are asking more because they're becoming more aware and they want to know, okay, now where do I go from here? I know what's going on. How do I maybe find someone and work through someone to move forward. I do like the act of, you say that a lot of people are bringing up their past, their childhood.
Yeah.
When I got into the 6 phase meditation, the forgiveness part was
Oh,
big
yeah.
for me. I didn't realize how much, but the book I read was from Vishaan, I forget his name, Vishaan Lakan, I think. He wrote The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And in
Mm-hmm.
that, he's the 6 phase meditation guy. He's the one that created it.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about forgiveness in the sense of, it was the most powerful release of energy because we're holding that within us, right? And that's that childhood stuff that you're talking about, and that it keeps coming back in a sense. It's haunting us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we, and I didn't realize how much, like I had a rough childhood life, right? And when I got into that, and I've heard a lot of people, oh, I can't forgive that person. I can't forgive this. I hate that person. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
ruin their lives. But you're not really tackling what it's done inside you. You're releasing that thing is toxic. So it's spitting out, venom in a sense. But when you really tap in and you forgive it within you, it's not forgiving the person. It's not really, forgiving, them in person and saying that, what you did was okay. It's saying, I don't want this to charge me,
Yeah.
that energy to charge me anymore. And I think
Yeah.
that's incredible. And I'm sure that's what you help work on with your clients in that sense.
That's our fourth session. And I'm a radical forgiveness specialist, meaning that I went through training through Colin Tipping's program. He wrote a book called Radical Forgiveness. And everything that you're saying, Robert, about childhood and how these things come up and how it just affects your life. There's could be a 7-year-old that's running your life
Mm,
because you're going back to those old patterns, and people don't know how to forgive. That's one of the reasons why they don't. And you hear forgive, 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 but what they do is they repress.
hmm
They don't let it go. So I liken it to taking a beach ball and just blowing all of your hurts, your angers, your frustrations, and you're blowing it to a beach ball, and the beach ball is getting bigger and bigger, and you're trying to hold it underwater. When there's not much stuff in there when you're younger, you can put it under the water and walk around. But, you know, as an adult, it's so full of your crap, it's hard to keep it down. You're going along, and then you're triggered, and that beach ball comes up, and you got to push it down again, and then you're triggered, and it comes up, and all of your stuff. So what I do is help clients, bring the ball up, look at it, and just get all of that stuff that you've stored in that beach ball, so you don't have to carry it around anymore.
Nice.
And the process of forgiveness, the spiritual approach says that nothing was done to you, it was done for you and with you. Because as souls, we agree to do these things together. Our soul groups, we incarnate, if you believe in this thing, which I do very much so. After all, I did write a book about spirit guides. So if you believe that you came to the planet to learn and grow, you can't do that alone. You learn in the contrast. So something and someone has to be there to provide the contrast, right? So all the things, I don't know what you went through as a kid, Robert, but just know those things are what you needed to be an amazing artist that you are, an advocate for creatures in the ocean, for to be this amazing speaker that you are right now, and that you're bringing more speakers in to spread goodness. You got all of that because of the contrast that you were provided as a child. And when you look at it like that, you go, wow, I had some really good teachers. Instead
I love
of going,
that. I love how you just described all that. That I don't think
yeah,
I've ever been able to actually describe it in that manner.
yeah,
And that's the beauty of it. When you do look
mm-hmm,
back, I've always said, you know, no matter what darkness you're in, there's always a bit of light, and you want to add your energy to that light because it will
mm-hmm.
just grow and grow and grow, right? You know, with
But
the
it's all
darkness.
light.
Mm-hmm.
It's all light when you look at it, and that's Colin's theory. But it's not just Colin's. I believe it's the truth that somebody says, and actually, Neil Donald Walsh wrote a children's book called The Little Sun and the Little Sun and the Light, I think it's called, where he talks about the soul is with God, the Son, and says, I love it here, but I don't understand what love is. So God says, you're going to go to earth and experience these things. And he asked the soul, well, what do you want to experience? And the soul said, I want to experience forgiveness. So God said, well, you're going to need somebody to help you with that. And so, and it's a picture book. So you see this picture, this soul puts on this cloak, and it turns dark. So the little soul is saying, why are you doing that? He says, so the soul with the cloak says, in order for me to help you with forgiveness, I have to forget who I am. And I'm going to be so good at doing my job for you that I'm going to forget who I am, and you're going to forget who I am. And the little soul said, well, why would you do that? And the soul with the cloak says, because I love you. Mm. And so you see that they're doing this dance with and for each other, because you don't learn without contrast. You don't know up until you know down. You don't know light until you know darkness. So everything that you are right now, Robert, that I am right now, I'm grateful for that contrast. Mm-hmm. And it's easier to forgive when you see it in that way. You go, that was some really great contrast. I don't ever want to do it again, but I'm glad I got the lesson.
Awesome. No, there was so much truth in that. So much truth.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I used to hold grudges, and I didn't realize what it was until that emotion, say it was a person, for an example, I see that person, my whole body would literally flare. like I was growing these massive wings, and my back was blowing up. And I realized that can't be good. You know, and that much evil energy comes out of you. You know, you feel that, and you're like, wait a second. So what I did, without realizing it, I looked back on these, you know, these connecting the dots, and I started forgiving people. not necessarily forgiving, but I apologized to people. I
Or
told them,
thank them.
well, at this point I was
It was
19.
okay.
I was understanding, wait a second, I need to, not necessarily I didn't know to move forward, but I knew
Hmm.
that in me, I said, these people are afraid of me, right? I fought a lot back when I was
Mm.
younger. And
Hmm.
I went up to them
You,
and
Robert, you fought a
yeah.
lot.
The area I grew up in, survival or be killed kind of thing. So I went up to this person and I said, hey, you don't have to worry about me anymore. Everything's good. And they thought I was lying to them, right? But
Hmm.
I said, no, I'm serious. You're never going to see me again. It's all good. Don't worry. That's it. And from then on, my life changed quite a bit, quite fast too. I went to college, got my diploma, and that was something that was new to my life and to my family's life. No one ever went to college. My whole neighborhood, people either went to jail or they went to prison or they went somewhere else, right? But so it was just a learning curve that you're right. This we can definitely change things. If
Yeah.
we tap in and forgive. Forgiveness is huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
I think, and people don't think about it like this, but um, forgiveness and gratitude go
Mm.
together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go, thank you for that, for what you showed me. And even in the military, there was leaders that I would never want to be like. There were, um, I've had people that yelled at me, that cursed all the time, and they were my leaders. But I remember saying, you're the worst commanding officer ever. Because I remember, the vibration of it was
Mm.
so destructive that it would tear you down. And
Right.
so which reminds me of another book, Power versus Force. So it's authentic power would be someone, well, I don't want to get into politics, but there's authentic power that is kind of natural. It doesn't go away. It doesn't come with a title.
Mm.
It is within you. So it's more charismatic. And then there's force, where people will do things for you because they're afraid.
Mm.
They're afraid not to. They're afraid what's going to happen to it. And so people think that's power, but it's really, it is a form of power, but it's once that position goes away, once, so you don't have the authentic power anymore. And I've had leaders like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, they have 2 more years left as my commanding officer. They have 2 more years left in that position, and then they're gone. And then you're relieved that they're gone. But then people who have authentic power, you miss that.
Right.
There's a hole there, or you learn something from it. I've learned from both kinds.
Mm-hmm.
One was one that I was directly aligned with, and one was that I knew that I was learning something from it, and I would never be that kind of leader. And the same thing with parenting. Some people have had really crummy parents, and I won't even say that. Some people had parents that provided them contrast.
Right.
And so when you can thank those parents for saying, I see what you were showing me. You were showing me what not to do, how I don't want to be. But you would never know that unless you've had that experience. So you can bring gratitude to it. And once you're in the energy of gratitude, you know what happens.
Mm. Yeah, gratitude's incredible. For an example, my wife and I, at times, like any marriage, can have our times of moments where we're yelling at each other. For an example, we're angry about things, situations, and at that moment, I had a rough job where I was like stressed and stressed. So I had stress on both ends, and that's kind of when I think I took on meditation, and the gratitude
Hmm.
part flipped everything. Because instead of me thinking and putting energy to the thought of what went wrong today and how, what pissed me off, I started thinking about my goodness, she's, healing us with the good food that she's creating. She's,
Mm,
taking care of the house. My son is
yes.
beautiful. He gives me such amazing smiles when we have these group hugs, and I can see him picturing, looking up and smiling at me. Changed my world. Totally changed and calmed me
Mhm.
at work. Right. I thought,
Yeah.
when I thought about my day at work, it was like I could handle everything. I could take care of everything instead of going to work going, okay, what's going to hit me now? What's going to hit me there? What's shooting me down here? I was able to say, holy crap, I had the best day because nothing happened because I feel I planned it. Right. So yeah, that's why I really, I'm an advocate for that, because I've seen it work within my
Yeah.
own life. And now I want to make sure that everybody understands that it can work in their life too.
Gratitude is everything.
Mm,
That's why it's the first of the PCP. It's that gratitude. And growing up, that's how I was taught to pray. Was like, don't go
mm.
straight in asking God for things. Look at what you already have
Be thankful for what you
and
got.
thankful for what you have. And then my grown-up version of that is, be grateful for what is being created.
Right.
Or as Abraham Hicks says, that's already in your vibrational escrow.
Mm,
It's already been created. You just need to align with it.
right. So true. And that is something that I've added, is being grateful for the goals that I've set, already accomplished. So I'm being
Yes.
grateful that I've already accomplished it in a sense. So I'm saying thank you for, for an example, retiring my mother, because that's one of my goals, is to retire my
Mm-hmm.
mother. And so I thank that. I vision that. I create it. I feel the emotions. I feel her crying and hugging and that kind of thing. And I do believe, and there's a lot. I think every day is a learning experience. Like, I'm learning a lot from you today, which is great. And I, I think if people just tapped into a few of these, it's almost like stopping and smelling the roses, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
being patient. You're saying, okay, how can I fix myself here by just thinking deeper about who I am, what I have, and being grateful for that? Because they say when you're grateful for what you have, it's that reticular activating system that, I
Mm-hmm.
like to talk about as an artist. You're filtering in more of it. And people
Yes.
don't understand that.
Not yet, but with
Mm-hmm.
shows like this, when people are ready, the teacher appears, and
Mm,
they're going to be looking for shows like this. So I love that you have this podcast, Robert. So this may be exactly what somebody needs to go, wow, because we just mentioned, I don't know how many books and how many other teachers and mentors. So now they can not only listen to what you're doing right here, but tap into some of those other resources to open up their mind to create the life that they really want.
absolutely. Absolutely. This has been an incredible, incredible conversation. So what 3 tips can you share with our listeners that can implement today and help them improve their life and or their mindset?
Awesome. 3 tips. So remember PCP, we talked about it
Mhm.
before: positive, consistent, purposeful. The second is to monitor your self-talk. Make your default talk positive and think, what if up? What if up? Expect the best in every situation and what's being said to you from you. Monitor what's being said from you. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to take one positive thought, affirmation, or theme and use it all day. So I have my clients take a dry erase marker and write on a mirror. So they write that, and I have stickies around my house. I have a theme for the year. My theme for this year, 2020, is to play big.
Mm.
So I burst out of the bubble I used to be in, and now I'm reaching. And my coach, Lisa Nichols, says, make a bold request. So that's what I'm doing. I've stepped out of that and made bold requests to people that I wouldn't have normally done because it wasn't inside my comfort zone. And so I'm going to give one more, and that is to every night journal what went right.
Nice.
What went right. So, and it doesn't have to be a journal. I'm like bullet points, right? It's just like, and you mentioned some of them, some of the things that you write. I saw my son smile. My wife cooks nutritious food. There was no traffic today. The sun came right in and made a rainbow on my wall. Those are all the small miracles that go on, and those change your mindset because now you're noticing them. So when you
Absolutely.
write them down and then you go back from month to month, you see that your life is really amazing, that there's things that's going on all the time. So, so those 4 tips: PCP, monitor your self-talk, take one positive thought, affirmation, or theme, and go with it every day. Write it down, and then write down what went right. Try to do that every night. Those are my tips.
I like that every night thing. Well, I like all 3 of them, to be honest with you, because speaking, your mind's always listening. Be conscious of that is huge, because sometimes we go on autopilot and then we don't realize. And I think that's, what we're trying to do here is get people off autopilot, start taking control of their life, their mind, and start, resetting it and understanding it. And that's a daily thing. Like I said, sometimes my mind goes off into the past and I have to cut it loose and start, moving towards the present and the future. But yeah, these are great tips. These are fabulous tips. And where can people find you on social media?
Social media, Facebook, it's CoachDeeWoolridge.com. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, it's Dee Woolridge. And if you want to tap into my resilient workshop that's free for anyone, it's workshop.deewoolridge.com. And I have a mind shift membership program that's feeding you daily inspiration, motivation, and information. So you will get that, and that you can find at MSM for Mind Shift membership, msm.deewoolridge.com.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to thank you for all this amazing value. This conversation was impressive. I learned a lot. It's great to talk and, compare stories in a sense, understand how things work. And, the listeners can get a lot of value out of this. Absolutely. And I really think, everything that you mentioned a lot of great books. So if everybody just kind of like replays this, get those books, write them down, make sure you had a pencil in your hand, write down where you can find Dee Woolridge, especially get her free workshop and check out her membership site, and remember, every Thursday we have people like Dee come on our show and provide some massive value, and, make sure you subscribe so you can get into that. And I want to thank you, Dee, so much from providing from your naval background, which was so impressive in itself, and how you transformed out of there with the spiritual end and became such a mega power right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This conversation this conversation has been so yummy. If I could describe it that way, when you just jive with someone and you have great conversation, I know we could talk forever, and we might just do that right after the show. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. If you're new here, hit subscribe and become part of the community, and tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and join my Mind Power Mastery group by hitting the link in the description.